Hey y'all, my name is Joey and welcome to Joey's Book. Today what we are going to be doing is kind of a newbie bookish book tag kind of feel. This started years and years ago, way before I even knew what Booktube was, way before I really was into all of this, but I've seen some people kind of come back and do these, so I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about again and kind of do my own little twist on this book tag. So if you don't know, the Newbie Bookish Book Tag is for new content creators, which is me. Kind of lets you get to know who I am, what kind of content to expect on this channel, and that sort of thing. And I'm really excited to kind of get talking with you guys. Alright, so the first question on our book tag is pretty straight to the point. It just says, why did you start this channel? So for me, I just really love books at this point of my life. I never used to be a reader or anything like that. There was just kind of a flip of a switch, and now outside of my job and like my social relationships, literally all I do is sit and read. I love books, I love literature, I love the commentary on social issues, I love all of those kind of things that can kind of come up into books, and that's really where this spawned from. I got watching Booktube, I saw a bunch of other people, and there was a community and stuff, and I just wanted to be a part of that, or at least take my shot at it. So hopefully you like what you see, and maybe we can go somewhere with this. Our next question says, what are you most excited for with this new channel? I'm just excited for the experience of it. I'm used to speaking, but I'm not as much used to speaking to an audience through camera. And for me, I think it's kind of a growing point. I had a little bit of experience of that during COVID. I'm a teacher, and I work in schools and things like that. So like I got to do that during like the pandemic, but that's not the same thing as putting film and breaking out of your comfort zone. Can be a very introverted person, so kind of getting that experience. And I just get excited about the community that is Booktube and Bookstagram and those kind of things, because I've seen some really cool people that I've been able to interact with, and I love the community. It's so supportive of people, and it's so understanding of people, and it just really seems like such a great way to get to know people. Our next question says, why do you love reading? I love reading for so many reasons. I used to, when I was a kid, it was just straight video games. I hated books. I didn't like to read at all. I didn't like any of that. And then I got into like video games, that kind of thing, as I was growing up. But books weren't really my thing. Like I read in like Series of Unfortunate Events. I think I had to do like a summer reading thing where I had to read the Narnia book, and I enjoyed most of those when I read them at that age. And then when I got into high school, I read maybe 2 books. When I became an adult, I really started to get more into it. Whenever I started reading and I really sat down, I started scheduling time for myself to read. And instantly, not only did I just enjoy the experience of books in that form, it helped my mental health a lot too. When I started reading, I started sleeping better. I started feeling better in my head space. I wasn't as depressed as I was getting because I was going through some slumps and things like that. And it not only let me escape, but it really cleared a lot of my headspace up as a whole, and it gave me something else to focus on and to enjoy. I just love it now. It's my preferred medium, and over anything. I barely watch TV anymore. It's not what I gravitate for. I'm more likely to pick up a book now. Alright, our next question asks, what books got you into reading? And there's about 2 different eras of my life where these books really started to hit me. So when I was in high school, it was probably my senior year of high school, I actually dropped down from, like, we had like AP classes, that kind of thing, and I dropped down from like the upper level AP classes to the regular English class because it was going to be less work and I didn't have to do all these required readings and this kind of thing. And in that class we actually read a book that I kind of attribute to making me a lifelong reader, because it was one of the few books that I actually read when I was in school. And that book was The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. To this day, I still have my copy of this book because I instantly went out and I bought it and I had to read it. And there was something about this growing up in kind of a rural area in Kentucky I'd never read something from more of a Afghan or just Middle Eastern, Arab perspective. This, not that I really understood fully everything culturally that was going on in those areas just from reading like one book. This really helped me open my mind culturally and show just some of the dark things that could happen in books. And I fell in love with this and I flew through it. I had never had that experience of just being engulfed in something I wanted to read, whether it was real or fiction. And this book just really brought me in. And I instantly had to go back and then pick up his other books. And then from there, I started to just pick up random books I had heard of. And I never really got reading a whole lot of them. I'd pick up one here and there, but that was about it. But then, later on in my adult life, one of the books I'd picked up would be Carrie by Stephen King. And I fortunately have this beautiful edition that I ordered online for way too much money. Carrie just really opened my eyes yet again. And especially for one of those books that, like, not always his most well-received book. I just love this story for some reason. There was something about it, whether it was an adaptation I saw or when I finally picked this up. I just loved it. And it's still a book that sits with me to this day, and I think about possibly rereading. I'd never seen something in a book that was so mixed media format, because there's lots of letters and things like that in here. And just the whole thing, it blew me away. And I just took off reading from there. I had a few ruts along the way, but eventually I just finally sat down and said, I'm going to read more, and it just took over my life from here. But this is really one of those books that started that. And our next question just asks, like, what kind of reader am I really? I love all kinds of genres. Horror is probably my biggest one. I have my horror shelf kind of here behind me of some of my upcoming TBRs and stuff like that. But some of my top books that I've read, probably one of the biggest tomes of a book that I've ever read, second largest book, because I've read both of his large ones, is another Stephen King. And I'm not going to go in a lot of detail on this. Well, helps if I hold it the right way. But It by Stephen King. This book, so many people talk about it. So many messed up things happen in this book that are weird. But just this study of these characters and their lives. There's so many things that happen in here. It's creepy, it's dark, it's descriptive. There's the multiple timelines happening. There's so many things. And I just ate this up. It took me so long to read this because this was very, very early in my reading journey. I said, let's read an over 1,000-page book. Let's just do it. And I never regretted it, though. It took me so long to read. And it really was another one that just kind of kickstarted me. Some other books, though, that have really hit me, and I'm not going to go in super, super detail about, but that really fit into some of those weird and horror kind of things, include, again, cannot hold it correctly, Tinder is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. This was one of my first dips into translated horror. I had not read from a lot of translated authors, and the final page of this book has still to this day had me screaming. It is one of those just reactions I never expected. Cannibalism is a huge trope that I love to see in books and things like that. So being set in this dystopian society, I just loved it. Absolutely loved it. And two more books that really hit hard with me is I'm a huge fan of grief horror. Particularly, there's something about grief, or even LGBT themes, because that's something very personal to me as well. So two more books that fit in some of the best books I've ever read include Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield and Monstrilio by Gerardo Simona Cordova. Both of these exquisitely written in different ways. So sad, so much grief and things that happen in it. Monstrilio in particular is probably, if not my top book of all time, it's right up there in the second spot. It's gorgeous, it's queer, it has so many good themes to it. Same with Our Lives Under the Sea, one of the first sapphic books I read. as I really started to dive into grief stuff. And then my other one that's right up there at the top with Monstrilio, and don't ask me why, this is one of the strangest books I have ever read, but to this day, I am obsessed with it. It's been almost 2 years since I've read it now, and I still find myself walking around quoting it and trying to pronounce words out of it, but that would have to be Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. I'm constantly thinking, not even just the weird commentary, but just the strange terms that this took me on, and I went around and made so many people read this just to be like, what did you think? It's just another book I absolutely love, and it makes no sense on why I do, and no one should, but it's amazing. And then we have a question that says, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I watch so many booktubers, and that's really what inspired me. I always struggle with these what questions would you ask, because there's so many, especially with me being someone that's starting out, is just, how do you make this work? What things do you use to do these things? Whether it's programs or equipment or whatever. I'm going to be straight up, I have no clue what I'm doing going in, and I'm just here for the ride of it because I love to read and I like to talk about my books, and I would just like to talk to more people about it. But just those kind of things, or how do you come up with your ideas? Lots of different things I could think to ask, but it's really hard to put into just one quick question answer. Alright, our next question is asking, what kind of challenges in starting a booktube channel do you think are going to be the hardest to overcome? Putting myself in front of a camera, because it's not something I'm used to. It's not like I'm just used to kind of talking out. Like right now, even as I'm filming this, I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm moving my camera around. I'm probably making this where it's going to be really choppy because I'm just like, what are you doing? And then just finding time in my schedule. My work life is extremely busy. I work extremely late hours, good portion of the year. Sometimes it's hard to find reading time, but those are things that I'm willing to work around because I'm really excited to be kind of on this journey. So the next question is, when did you start reading? I was around books. I always had family that would read to me as I was a kid, that kind of thing. And then, like I said before, in high school is when I kind of started to read a little bit, like at the very end, like my senior year of high school. Picked up a couple books here and there between college. I'd read it on like the breaks between music school. It really took off around COVID-ish times. And it wasn't because of COVID that I started reading. It was just, I had books. I had already kind of started to collect them and I wasn't reading them. It's just what I do now. It's how I enjoy my free time when I'm not doing something work related. All right, and then I asked, what kind of books do I like to read? Genre-wise, I read a little bit of everything. My number one genre is horror. And even under horror, like, I'm starting to find a lot of subgenres I really love. I have this obsession with grief horror, and I do not know where it comes from. It's not that I've never had grief or anything in my life, but it's not like to those crazy extents. Things like Monstrilio, Our Lives Under the Sea, These Things Between Us by Gus Moreno is another one. And even grief in some other books. I don't know what it is. I love it. But really, horror as a whole, I like weird books. Strange things out there. I've gotten really big on translated works. I found, especially like works translated from Japan have hit really hard with me, or from Argentina. I found a lot, especially with people like Mariana Enriquez or Agustina Bastarrica. I read a little bit of everything. Lately, I've been getting a lot more into like fantasy. I never read like high fantasy or anything like that growing up, unless it was in like a video game or something. But lately I've been picking up a little bit more and more fantasy, even some like cozy stuff, which is weird for me. Not normally I like a lot of plot and action, and lately it's not been something I'm as after. I've been doing a lot more like character studies and things like that. It just kind of depends. I'm such a mood reader. But I read a lot of general fiction sometimes. Through a whole phase where I was just buying Margaret Atwood books after I read The Handmaid's Tale. I've got fantasy, sci-fi, speculative. We've got a bunch of random series that I just never read growing up that I bought, even if they're like some of them are more like YA or middle grade, that normally that's not what I would go towards. I've got a whole shelf of thrillers, and but I've been getting more into those lately as well. So it's all over the place. Horror is going to be my top genre no matter what. It's going to be what I go to, but I've been reading a lot of other stuff as well. And that's about it for this book tag. Hopefully this edits out where it's not super long for kind of a tag kind of video. It's supposed to be kind of quick and fun, but I know I tend to ramble a little bit. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like this video, subscribe if you want to start seeing some content coming from me. I've got a few things coming up. I know I'm going to be doing monthly Stephen King reads and vlogs. I'm going to be doing some anticipated releases. Possibly some stuff coming up on my Instagram over Pride Month and queer authors and stuff like that, and just really kind of get things going. I'm such a mood reader, and we don't know where it's going to go, but hopefully it might get a little unhinged on the way. But like I said, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.